Ooh, yeah. Ah, let's get a little weird and experimental. Yeah, weird intro. That's what we do here, baby. What's up, everyone? It's your boy, Matt Diazzo, coming at you with a new music review. Thanks for coming on back. If you've watched before, if you're new to the channel, thank you for finding me and watching. If you like what you're seeing here, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. It helps a lot. Now, today I am checking out the latest release from a band called Dance Gavin Dance with their newest album called Pantheon. If you grew up on MySpace or I guess early stage Facebook, you definitely know this band, but if you don't know, Dance Gavin Dance is a funky experimental post-hardcore band that, has kind of created their own genre with their own unique erratic style of playing music and their overall experimental sound that has been known and coined as SwanCore. And I think it's based off of how erratic the guitars are here and how, the main person who started this band back in 2005, his name is Will Swan, the guitarist of the band. And so I think because of how intricate his guitar playing is, over time, people just started calling their music SwanCore. They always do that easy core, hardcore, post-hardcore. So it made sense that they just made their own style here with SwanCore. And that is the thing that really drives this band. They are a very unique band in any genre because they're always doing lots of experimental things, doing a lot of different styles, mixing hardcore, metalcore, jazz, funk, hip hop, so many things across their whole discography. And another thing that they're really famous for, which if you know this band, they have gone through so many members, particularly vocalists. I think they've gone through 4 or 5 main vocalists. Some good stuff, some bad stuff, some allegations, stuff like that. Not the best, but surprisingly, the band has, survived for a very long time with all these member changes. They've gone through a lot of ups and downs. So I got to give it up to the band for not giving up. They are still here, still doing what they do best, and it's amazing. So let's talk about this new album, Pantheon. And I guess I want to start this off by saying no other band that has come out from the MySpace, post-hardcore scene from 2005, 2006 have managed to stay consistently innovative with their sound as much as Dance Gavin Dance. Nearly 2 decades later and almost a half dozen vocalists later, they've built a sound that is just instantly recognizable. As I said before, SwanCore. And this style of music is definitely defined by, elastic guitar work, soulful hooks, and a mix of technical prowess and pure eccentricness. That's the word I was looking for. And with this latest album, Pantheon, it seems like the band is not trying to show all these musical gymnastic shit of being all over the place and being very spastic. It feels like this time around they're a little bit more intentional with sculpting out an atmosphere with this record. Don't get me wrong, this is still a very Dance Gavin Dance album through and through. It has their DNA, but this time it seems like they've learned to really let things breathe a little bit, slow things down a little bit, and just create that atmosphere I was talking about before. You definitely notice that energy with the opening song Animal Surgery because it feels like the band is starting things off with a very different kind of energy. Instead of their usual, sensory overload of different types of styles of music and playing and everything, it feels like we're pulled back a little bit here with some more shimmering synths, a very clearly strummed out guitar playing, and drums that feel very calculating and expressive. There's a lot of feelings going on with this opening track. There's still some aggression here from the band and everything, but it feels more tamed and measured than just being very spastic and all over the place. It feels like the band is doing open heart surgery on themselves to really understand their own identity. Scream vocals are very sharp without ever being really overwhelming, and the clean vocals are very clear and have a very warm and focused feeling to them, which really surprised by because like I said, there are half a dozen vocalists. They've gone through so many vocalists, and this new vocalist, I'm not gonna lie, he kind of reminded me of their first singer, Jonny Craig, in terms of his style and his warmth and everything. And he fits in really nicely with the band. There was just moments where I kind of got lost where It wasn't like, oh, Dance Gavin Dance with a new singer. It just felt like Dance Gavin Dance as a whole. It's Dance Gavin Dance in a very controlled and very precise way of playing, rather than just pushing through with pure momentum. That balance continues on the song Midnight at MacGuffin's, where, you know, groove just really takes charge here. The bass lines on this track have a very good, silky, smooth feel to them that is just, you know, laying right under the mix very nicely. And it recalls a lot of the band's funkier moments from before, but with a little bit more of a refined polish. And I gotta say, you know, with the loss of their old bassist and them getting a new bass player, or, you know, one of the members like Will is playing the bass here, everything sounds really good. And you know, it doesn't really discredit the old bassist or anything. It just feels really refreshing and renewed. And the interplay between, you know, the different vocals here, the scream and the very clean vocals, you know, they're capturing a very unspoken chemistry between these two members. And it's quite alluring. Like, I'm really surprised that they are able to mesh off each other very well here. Even if the drums on this particular track, you know, feel a little bit smaller than usual, the song still pulses with a lot of infectious groove. And so it reminds you that no one else in the scene, or at least no band I have discovered, really fuses R&B, prog metal, and post-hardcore so like easily. These guys are just the champs at it. I feel like there's also a very reoccurring theme across this album, and that is just like the feeling of containment. Like on the song Robot with Human Hair, Rebirth, or Trap Door, the band is playing with wild unpredictability here, but you know, for what they're known for. But the compositions, the song structures, they're just shorter, denser, and just feel more controlled. They're taking what they've known and done before, and like I said, contained it and meshed it into a very nice package form here. Another example I would say that this record shows that it's a little bit different from its predecessors is that, you know, the guitar work here feels very disciplined. He's not all over the place with his wheedlies and, you know, trying to be very technical. Everything feels more purposeful than playful. So it feels like this album is trading out their, you know, signature sound of randomness for more structure, and it's showing a different side to the band and showing that, you know, they've got, you know, other talents besides just being all over the place. They can be just as structured. Of course, this restrainment that the band is doing here doesn't mean that they're not still gonna go balls to the walls at times. Songs like, you know, The Conquer Worm and Space Cow really dip into the surrealness that Dance Gavin Dance has been known for, bursting with some really interesting warped effects, quirky vocal productions, and just very odd rhythmic, you know, time signatures and detours. And I will say there are moments where they kind of push a little bit too far into the surreal moment, like when they kind of dabble with some auto-tune moments that kind of remind me of Travis Scott and just don't really work with their style of spastic playing, or when they get a little bit too curious with their experiments, and so the songs kind of lose any conviction to them and they get a little bit messy. But even in these missteps, you know, it really underscores how the band is relentless at being creative. And I feel like Dance Gavin Dance is a band that just, you know, they can't be content with just sitting still. They have to push things a little bit further, try things, stuff that they normally wouldn't do no matter what. And I feel like this latest album, Pantheon, really reinforces that impulse, even if it might divide some listeners and fans. One of the most striking things about this album that I was kind of surprised by is that it has a lot of emotional weight to it. Because beneath all the funky driven rhythms and the glossy guitar textures, I feel like there's an aching pain under the surface of these songs, like on All the Way Down or A Shoulder to Cry On. Because here the clean vocals really carry a sense of longing and just feel so genuine. They don't feel performative, even though this is a band and they do performances, but something about the clean vocals here just have so much like pain to them. There's like this subtle sadness that is just weaving into these vocals, and they're just also like really reinforced with the off-kilter instrumentation. Something resonates in you when you're listening to these tracks. And so I feel like Dance Gavin Dance have thrived on moments like this before, but this time around it feels more grounded, very reflective in a weird way. So by the time we get to the finale here, Descend to Chaos, there's like this weird equilibrium that you're getting with this final song. And so the finale feels very measured, like I said about this whole album. It's heavy yet spacious, layered but not really cluttered. The bass is moving with a lot of confidence here. The guitars are really breathing, and the vocals seem to find really peace within all this noise. And so this finale feels less about being very grand and just huge and just more about clarity, and it's fitting really nicely in the whole like cohesiveness that this album is prioritizing instead of like just being very loud and abrasive. It's following a nice flow. This newest release from Dance Gavin Dance, Pantheon, might be their most deliberate album ever. It's not trying to be so explosive and theatric like their older album Mothership, or genre hopping like crazy on Afterburner. And so it really refines its formula here. It's a very patient, well detailed oriented album that really leans into its textures more than just being like showmanship. Some fans might miss, the reckless flair of their earlier work, but this newest album, Pantheon, stands out as a band trying to be their most self-aware and possibly be their most mature after going through so many different challenges in their career. And so this album just proves that, after countless evolutions, different style changes, different vocalists, different members, Dance Gavin Dance still know how to be just themselves. Just this time around, they're a little bit sharper, they're a little bit more subdued, and it gives something a little bit more refreshing here. So this latest album from Dance Gavin Dance, I'd have to give it up to them. It's a good and decent 7.5 out of 10. Links down below. Tell me what you think about this album. What is your favorite Dance Gavin Dance album? Your favorite Dance Gavin Dance singer? Until next time, guys. See you in the pit. Thinking good things about you.